more intelligent thing you will consume, the AI will give you more intelligent stuff.
The response to this phenomenal, unprecedented stimulus, we don't know how the organism will respond.
Elon Musk is talking about us being interplanetary and AI being the greatest threat. And what happens when this worst case scenario plays out?
It's going to be many, many years before AI reaches that stage where human functionality can be replicated by the machine on a vast deployment.
Now let's come back to robotics again. With all these dangers, all these fear we have, what are the things that you think with robotics we can be benefited? The quality of our life will be changed, will be better with robotics and AI?
I think there's all the kind of robots I'm working on now are very simple robots. They don't make value judgments. They move from place A to place B. They avoid hitting things. They're able to plan parts and they move material. In a factory, in a manufacturing scenario, the lowest value add is in moving material, because a very experienced operations manager told me that he thinks in his factory, the people who move material are doing nothing because they don't change the shape or form of that material. They just move it from place A to place B. So in the food chain of manufacturing, just moving material is of very low value. The robots that we are devising to move material, the level of intelligence is low. They don't have to worry about a child coming in the way or a dog coming in the way, because a factory is a very bounded place. Workers are wearing, safety shoes. People are trained. The risks are low. The value comes from taking away dull, repetitive work. And whether doing it with precision like a spot welder or just doing it like moving material with a tug, I think is fairly low value. And I think that robots will, in the coming couple of decades, get very good at doing the low value tasks. The true intelligent tasks will not come from robots for, at least 10, 20 years, not in the foreseeable future, because the artificial intelligence needs to get to the stage where it can operate at the level of a human mind. Now, we talked about a poker game where artificial intelligence is able to do it. But the cost of that machine, the cost of the artificial intelligence and the level of software written for that one application, it's only for a demonstration of capability. It's not for widespread deployment. And I think that it's going to be many, many years before AI reaches that stage where human functionality can be replicated by the machine on a vast deployment.
I agree with you. Now, tell us a little bit about your the status of your startup. When did it get started? What is the stage you are in? And what is the future plan?
The company started 5 years back in Bangalore, and it evolved from a desire to do something in autonomy. The founders didn't know whether that would be vehicular autonomy or factory robots. They started building an autonomous machine. Then when they looked around for applications, they found that they learned, and that intuition was what I think is going to be the success of the company. The intuition was that, look, trying to do this on public roads will be very hard. It'll take too long. It will not, it's a race between our lifetime and getting the job done. And they chose bounded environments like factories and warehouses. So they pivoted from wanting to do autonomy on public roads to more bounded areas, and discovered that actually the ROI, the return on investment, is much better when you do it in a factory environment. What we're doing now is we have deployed at several commercial deployments in India, at Bosch, at Hyundai, TVS Motors, Flipkart, which is the Walmart in India. We've got very substantial traction at low volumes, but we've got really good traction at these places. And I have now joined to bring the technology to North America. The robot is capable of operating even between buildings, and no industrial robots today, none, go outdoors. So we're going to be doing some outdoor deployments later this year by summer, where the robot will be able to exit a building, go down a ramp, cross the road, go up a ramp and into a second building. And that's an application which a manufacturing organization, which is on a site with multiple buildings, sees high value in. And of course, the robot will also navigate within the shop floor, deliver the goods. So I'm seeing applications in so many different industries. Automotive is where we grew up, but I'm talking to a company which builds a lot of furniture. And it's just movement of material that we do. So we can work, really speaking, in any industry.
I think one of the applications will be warehouses, like where you simply move stuff from point A to point B. Amazon warehouses or any 3PL warehouses. E-commerce is like, due to COVID, it's a huge thing. So have you been also looking in that space?
We are. We have an e-commerce deployment ongoing in India. It's a pick to pack. So you get orders and pickers take the material out of shelves and put them into bins, and packers then need to put them into a box and deliver them. So they have a conveyor system for the pickers and a conveyor system for the packers, but they were not able to route the conveyors in that facility very conveniently. You know, conveyors are my biggest competition. It's interesting to think of it that way. But a conveyor system is great. It's very efficient. It's, relative to the cost, it gives you tremendous value. It's no risk. It works well. There are a few places where you can't run a conveyor. It's not very good at taking turns, for instance. And it doesn't have flexibility. You can't do a change of layout of your warehouse very quickly. And so the e-commerce application for us, we think of it as a conveyor extension. So the robot comes to one conveyor, offloads totes automatically onto its back, drives over to the second conveyor, delivers it, and goes back and forth. And so thinking of conveyors as competition, thinking of trolleys as competition, that puts us in the mindset of saying that the market size is simply enormous. The 3PLs you talked about, that whole industry, when we have a robot which has as good a functionality as the Roomba is, able to just plug it in, it goes off and does it. You got to get the robot to work at that stage, that level of functionality. But when we are able to do that, there are ginormous applications out there for material movement.
I agree. I totally agree. Actually, what's the next level? Do you want to put another layer of intelligence into it and go beyond moving stuff from point A to point B, or do you want to really master this space?
No, just in this space, Hassan, as I've got into it, I'm learning, of course, but just in this space, the smallest tasks, and this I think is a lesson for all of us in robotics. You take a simple example, you're able to move material in a tug, and you hitch something, it's on wheels, and you pull it, deliver it somewhere. Think of a pallet, and you have a forklift which comes, lifts it up, lifts something, takes it, and puts it down somewhere. It seems as if a natural step looks like an easy step. As we get into it, and there are many companies trying to do this, no one has succeeded yet in automating the task of lifting something, going and putting it down somewhere else. It's seriously non-trivial. It seems easy. You need a guidance system for a fork to go inside a pallet. You need a counterbalance system for it to lift it. But the most important thing is once you lift it, you start swinging around, and you need safety systems so that you don't hit some person. And forklifts cause, the statistic is 1 in 10 forklifts will be in an accident which is reportable. That means a human being was hurt every year. Every year. In a factory environment where operators are trained, people are trained, forklift drivers are trained, there's 1 in 10 forklifts will be in a reportable accident every year. So, and this comes back to the point of the Uber driver and being replaced. It's seriously non-trivial to make these systems safe and robust. It's not easy. And as the entire industry, I feel we have underestimated the complexity, which is why, going back to my point earlier, I said that it'll be 10 or 20 years before we have the mastery of robotics to be able to do really complex tasks. It will be very simple tasks that we will do for the next 10 or 20 years.
It's interesting what you've mentioned. When you just add another dimension, we tend to think it's just another dimension. But mathematically, the problem also, in some cases, become non-deterministic when you just add another dimension, right? So I can totally understand the pain, the complexity, the non-trivial, why is it non-trivial? And really, really excited about it that you guys are working on that. So Aditya, what else do you think we should cover today? Is there anything else in particular you want to talk about? Because we have a bit of time, right?
Sure. If you like, you could talk. If you like to, we could talk a little bit about where is humanity headed. What happens if those worst case scenarios play out, and what happens when truly giant minds like Elon Musk's talk about interplanetary travel and establishing footprints in other planets, and what's the role of artificial intelligence going to be in doing that? I don't know.
I love it. I love this question. Let's talk about it. So, Elon Musk is talking about us being interplanetary and AI being the greatest threat. And what happens when this worst case scenario plays out? Like, what happens when we are simply almost enslaved by AI? I can think of there are two things. One could be that we have so much time and comfort and we're so much productive that there is like other mental faculties in human that's opening up that we don't yet know about. The others, we are completely brainwashed to do things that are probably destructive to us. Or maybe there's other options. I want to hear your opinion. Let's talk about it.
I'm an optimist at heart, Hassan. I think the human mind will grow and take on new dimensions. And I think that humanity as a whole will, in a way, gain in its emotional and intelligence level because it has time and because everything else is evolving. Now, how will evolution take us? Where will evolution take us? Evolution doesn't stay still. Now, evolution has in the past played over the centuries. You pointed out that the rate of change is progressing. I don't think in your lifetime and mine, we will see that level of evolution, but who knows whether in 100 years, we're all living longer. Things are changing so much. Perhaps our children or our children's children, the minds will take on some different functionality, which we can't anticipate today. And humanity will start changing, morphing in some way. And you and I can only hope that it's in a good way. We don't know whether it'll be in a good way or a bad way. We could become a very dystopian society where we're all subject to artificial intelligence. On the other hand, our brains and our minds could grow in dimensions that we don't foresee today, which are very, very pleasant and very good.
I love that. Even Darwin said that evolution is not going to end here. We have the prefrontal cortex, that is the latest cycle of evolution that we went through. He actually predicts a set of evolution that is coming for us, and he calls it the evolution of higher consciousness. And who knows, probably AI will be one of the enablers to that.
Yes. And if you look at the interconnectedness of the world today and the availability of information, I can't help but thinking that it's going to make our brains evolve. We just know so much more today about everything around us and everything that's happening than, let's say, even you and I did when we were children. So in a way, even in our lifetime, our brains have evolved. It's not manifested itself in a complete societal change in terms of how intelligence is applied. But in 100 years, I think it will happen. And what you're talking about, Darwin's thoughts on evolution of consciousness, I can really see that happening in 100 years. And now that's contrary to the history of evolution, which has been very slow. But there's nothing which says that things shouldn't change.
Totally agree, because the history of evolution has been slow because evolution was influenced by only one factor, natural selection, right? So we are adding more to that with AI, with genetic engineering, with many other things. We are not stopping at natural selection. We are actually adding more stuff to it. And hence, I don't see any reason for the speed to be not getting accelerated.
The word stimulus came to mind. We are adding so much stimulus to our brains and our consciousness that the organism, if you think of consciousness as an organism, it's getting so much stimulus, unprecedented stimulus, that it's got to respond. And that response, you could encapsulate both the fears and the hope that we talked about by saying that the response to this phenomenal, unprecedented stimulus, we don't know how the organism will respond. And that response could be a very, very positive growth, a change which takes that consciousness to some different place, which is very positive. On the other hand, it could be a response where artificial intelligence provides a stimulus which is calming and then soothing, and then it neutralizes growth. And we all hope that it's the former, that our consciousness goes to a better place. And I think it will, because ultimately it's like democracy, right? You all vote on something in some way, and human minds in some way as a mass will vote for technology advancements, which will make that individual mind a better place. And I hope that where that takes consciousness to is good for us.
And what you just said, the stimulus could be, putting us good, let's call it good, or, for growth, for our growth of our consciousness, growth of our being. That could kind of stimulus, or making us dull and bored and too relaxed, too aesthetic state, doing nothing. Actually, that's already happening today. Just look at social media. We get a lot of stimuli from the social media. And there are cat videos, stimulus. There are space videos, Neil deGrasse Tyson talking about super exciting stuff. So it is up to the consumer. The danger is, the more cat videos you will consume, the AI will give you more cat type of a stimulus. So, and more intelligent thing you will consume, the AI will give you more intelligent stuff. How do you see that playing out in the larger, AI system? Here's the question. Here's some very, very, big questions. That should we program AI in a way so that we decide what's good and bad for you, or should we let you decide like the way we do in social media today? What should be the algorithm or the policy behind AI?
And corollary to that is, who runs that algorithm? Who runs that policy?
Right.
And now, how do we how do we elect on that policy? How does humanity shape that policy? And where does it take us? And I don't even know that humanity is thinking about this. Today, humanity is letting business leaders make these decisions based on their bottom line. And there is both goodness and badness in that. There's goodness in the sense that business leaders drive technology tremendously. And it's business that advances, make giant steps in technology. So in technology, I want to believe is good for us. The idea that we should go off and live in a remote wilderness and go back to nature, it doesn't appeal to me. And it does appeal to some people, but it does not appeal to me. What appeals to me is advancing technology in a way that actually benefits us. We don't have a mechanism today, Hassan, to make these decisions, to vote. And I think I don't see an answer. Humanity is going to move forward, and it's like a giant motion, which is guided not by any core principle or any guiding factor except commerce. And there is both danger and reward in that. And I don't have an answer for you about what will guide or how we should guide.
Totally. And should we even program morality in a machine? I mean, MIT's moral machine talked a great deal about this trolley paradox, which is in autonomous vehicle space, we talked way too much about it. It's an overrated thing where, it's such a corner case. I like corner cases are important, but if you ask any human being today, did you ever have to face in your lifetime while driving, saving between a child and a grandma and killing yourself? I've never heard of any such thing. And why should we talk about that thing so often? And should we give morality in the hand of AI? And who defines morality? If even today, just with social media, we're seeing that we're dividing people. If you're politically right-wing people, you're getting more right-wing feed, and you're getting more right-wing. And same goes for the left-wing people, right? So it's like giving you what you want, right? It's not defining the right or wrong for you, which I think, in an essence, sounds like a very, very exciting idea, very fantastic idea. You get to decide what is right and wrong for you. But like you said, if you have never seen the flip side, how will you know that if you would like something else or not? Right?
And so humanity has to figure this out. And I think we're at a path where even the smartest people are not able to figure it out. They're just not able to. And we're going with the flow. And it's only going to be time that tells us how it will play. If we are talking again 10 years from now and we look back on this conversation, we will see where it took us in the last 10 years. I don't know whether even 10 years from now we'll have the ability to look ahead in the next 20 years and see how it's going to be guided.
You know what, Aditya? In 10 years, we'll do our podcast in the metaverse.
We will. And let's do it. We'll schedule something in 10 years from now, and we'll do it in the metaverse, and we'll come back to this conversation, and we'll see how things happened. Right? I'm going to put it on my calendar.
We're going to put it on the calendar, and let's reserve this day 10 years from now in the metaverse. We'll definitely do it. So with that, I think it wraps up things fantastically. Is there anything else that you want to say to our audience to sum things up?
I think I'd say that, there's an optimistic and a pessimistic view of what we will be talking about 10 years from now. And the optimist in me, the natural optimist in me, says that we will not be looking back and saying that it was a disaster. There will be wars, there will be hunger, there will be brutality. These things happen, and human beings are somehow have the need to do some pretty nasty things. So when we look back 10 years from now, we will see some of that. We'll be sad about it. But I think that the overall tone will be that we made progress, and there'll be optimism in our voice.
I 100% agree with you. And I think we could actually back it up with what happened in, let's say, for social media. Yeah. We have given actually the examples like Cambridge Analytica and many other examples of social media which are not very good. But if you look at the positive impact of social media, it outweighs way more than the negative impacts. Like, think about small businesses coming up, the sharing of knowledge that takes place in social media, helping small businesses. Then even politically, Arab Spring and all those revolutions happened because of social media. So if you take the positive in one hand and the negatives in one hand, it's always in a net, human being is moving forward in a positive way. That's what I believe.
I absolutely agree with you. So thank you, and we'll talk in 10 years.
We'll talk in 10 years for sure, but I would love to have you in between 10 years once again, because I love this conversation. Thank you, Aditya, for being with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Hassan. It's a pleasure.
Thank you so much for watching Matrickz Take Talk. If you have liked this video, please hit the like button. If you have questions, comments, if you agree or disagree with the things that we have discussed, please write in the comment section. Would love to get back to you and appreciate you watching. Stay with us. Thank you so much.